Lisa is a master coach, best-selling author, and speaker with more than 2 decades of experience helping high-achieving executives, entrepreneurs, founders, and leaders close the gap between the success they have built and the life they are actually capable of living. Lisa has worked with hundreds of clients across the globe, driven, self-sufficient, and deeply capable. These are people who have achieved everything they were told would make them feel fulfilled and discovered it hasn't. Her clients are not struggling in any conventional sense, they're succeeding. And that is exactly what makes the gap so disorientating. Lisa's work is built on a single clarifying insight. The same strategies that produce your success are the ones quietly working against the fulfillment you expected it to bring. Through her proprietary framework, the success paradox, she helps clients see the operating system beneath their behavior, the patterns that became achievement strategies, the pressure that quietly replaced presence, and the identity that was built for external results rather than internal congruence. This is the movement from high achievement to high performers, from accumulating results driven by what you are moving away from to powerfully leading yourself towards a life you have actually chosen. Disclaimer: any of the guidance offered by the podcast host, myself, or the podcast guests is our own guidance. We are not liable for any of the actions the podcast listener decides to do. Lisa, there's so much amazing work you're doing here and really working with such a range of people and different experiences, different like human behavior. Would love to hear a little bit going back. What was your introduction into coaching? Obviously, you're a master coach, you've coached for decades, but I'd love to know how you got into coaching in the first place.
Oh my God, I'm turning 54 this year, so this is a long story. So I'll try and keep it like as short as possible. But my career started as a personal fitness trainer. And I remember my dad said to me, well, you're going to get a real job, right? Like at some point, you're going to get a real job, Lisa. And that was kind of what drove me forward to grow my business. So for many years, it was about personal training. And then I moved into nutrition. I grew a bricks and mortar studio. And then eventually I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I want to move my business online. So this was like, God, I don't even know how many years ago now. Like I was one of the original users on Zoom before, COVID made it really popular. So I moved my business online and it became pretty obvious that people were starting to seek me out not because of looking for weight loss results or fitness or nutrition. They just wanted me to coach them. And it was really challenging for me in the beginning to let go of what I thought people wanted from me and really step into my power around coaching, because coaching isn't about here's a widget or a gadget or a lot of times we're talking about the context of what's going on for people underneath the surface. And I was so used to being in this role of like, well, people need their macros or people need their exercise plan, right? Which is coaching required me to release that entire identity and step into the value is in the conversations that you're having with people. The value is in the questions that you're able to ask people. So my career now has spanned, like I said, over 2 decades, and it's constantly been evolving. And eventually I shut down my nutrition and weight loss and fitness. All of that is still a part of my underlying values in my coaching, because as high achievers and high performers, we need to be able to take care of ourselves. And that's part of my background. But yeah, coaching was kind of this abstract thing that I kind of found my way into. And then, of course, I started working with my mentor, Jim Fortin, over 9 years ago now. And then my coaching just evolved and evolved and evolved. And now I've grown a very successful worldwide practice, coaching hundreds of people, making impacts in their lives, along with coaching alongside my mentor inside his program, which has been such an absolute blessing as well. I know you know what it's like to have important mentors in your life. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into coaching. It was kind of accidental. It was kind of something that I fell into just because of the gifts that were given me. And the irony is when I look back on my life, especially in my high school years, which seem like a whole other lifetime ago, I really struggled in school. And I remember crying to my mom saying, like, I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up, and really I couldn't see the path in front of me. And My job didn't even exist when I was graduating high school. We didn't have the interwebs. If you said you were a coach, people were like an athletic coach, like life coaching did not exist. So it's just sometimes, we try so hard to map our paths so that we can determine like which direction we're going to go, and we can be intentional about that. But in my experience, we always need to be leaving room for magic, because I would not be doing what I'm doing today if I hadn't just allowed my life to unfold and follow the breadcrumbs with like wild curiosity and often a lot of resistance around stepping into it. But yeah, that's kind of how I made my way into coaching.
Wow, that's a great journey. And then, like you said, you've done it for many years and sounded like it was a big transition from telling people what to do, like, this is your meal plan, these are your macros, to actually understanding what was going on for them underneath.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always had that part. I could always see beyond what people were saying, but I didn't know it was a skill set. Like it was something that I just thought, well, doesn't everybody do this? Can't everybody see this? And this is why when people started reaching out to me and saying like, I want you to coach me, but not around my nutrition or my body composition, I was like, what are you talking about? And I still remember this woman saying to me, like, Lisa, you're just a coach. Like, do you not see that? And that's really like, it was so disorienting for me, because I was like, well, this is just who I am. This is just what I do. I didn't recognize that this was a gift that was given me that not everybody has. So, it took a while to really own my gifts.
Yeah, and you got your mentor, like you said, or mentors, you're learning from people. For anyone who's not perhaps experienced like the coach and they're wanting to go about a goal or a direction of life and they're like, I don't need a coach, I'm going to go alone. What would you say is the power of having a coach versus going alone?
Such a good question, because in the early part of my journey, I was really the strong, self-sufficient, didn't ask for help. Like, why would I need help? I'll just figure it out on my own. And that's actually one of the archetypes inside the success paradox, right? We don't want to ask for help. And then, my life kind of unraveled on me, and I was put into a situation where I really had to well, I didn't have to. I made the choice to get myself support. So the way that I look at coaching now and the way that I look at asking for help is like there are multiple ways to get from point A to point B. Right? You can get on a bus, you can drive a car, you can get on a plane. Like if you wanted to travel, I'm in Canada. If you want to travel across Canada, there's multiple ways that you could do that. Getting on a plane, that's what it looks like to work with a coach. Like how much more quickly you'll get to where you want to be than if you were decide to walk there on your own. Because when we're trying to coach ourselves, we don't know the questions to ask. We don't know the blind spots we have. So when I was first introduced to this work, it was so confronting for me because I didn't realize so many things about myself. So the things that I thought were true about me were actually behaviors that I was hiding behind. I would not have discovered that had I not had a coach in front of my face saying to me, like, what is true about that, Lisa? What makes that true for you? Does everybody show up that way or perform that way? Does everybody make decisions from that point of view? So when you have somebody in front of you who can see past your BS and ask you better questions, it opens up doors that you didn't even know you had inside of you. So if I were to go back to who I was, over a decade ago to who I am now, I don't even recognize myself. But that's what happens with a coach who can see into you. So that's why I just believe in the power of coaching so much, because as somebody who loves to achieve things and loves to grow and loves to learn, I'm always like, well, how can I do this better? And if it means working with somebody so that I can become a better version of myself, which means I can have a bigger impact out in the world, that is the best investment I could ever make, is in myself and in my own growth. And I know you subscribe to the same belief as I do around that.
Mm, yeah, definitely. It's crazy what opportunities can come in the way, come from that in yourself as well, right?
Yeah, just so many things that you just don't know are there. I mean, there was one really powerful moment I'll share when I went to. So, what started my personal transformation, like what my real deep dive into coaching, was I found out my partner was an active addict. So off he went to rehab. And I went into therapy and coaching because I thought that, I needed to figure out how to fix him. It's not my responsibility. But at the time, I was like, I need to figure out how I can support him so that he can get through this and be, the best version of himself. And so I went to a facility where we did like a week-long workshop. And I very quickly discovered that it wasn't about fixing him. It was looking at what in me made me a match for that relationship. Because you cannot have an addict without a codependent. They're like bread and butter. They go together.
Mm.
So it was in that room that, I mean, it wasn't even that doors were opened. It's that like walls were blown up around me. And I was left there standing in the rubble of who I thought I was. So there was this one exercise they gave us, and it was called the wall. And on the wall, you had to write down everything that you believed was blocking you from connection with yourself and connection with others. So I'm like, being the high achiever I was, I'm like, I'm going to nail this. I'm going to nail this. I'm going to get this so right. I'm not going to miss a single brick on my wall. They're not going to be able to call me out on anything. This is like another archetype within the success paradox, which is the prover. So I go home that night. I go to the art store. I buy myself some art supplies because I'm also going to make it very pretty. And I build my wall. So I've got all my bricks, I've got all my words, and I've got, everything is colored, and so proud of this. And I go into the group the next day and I'm thinking like, I've got it on all these people. And when I say these other people in the room, they were high level people, right? We're talking like appellate court judges and lawyers and doctors. Like this was a very high end rehab facility. Okay. So these were well educated people. So I went in there like, I'm going to prove to all these people that I've got my stuff together. And I could still feel it in my body today. So she asked me to open up my sheet in front of me and just hold it there. Right. So here I am sitting vulnerably with my beautiful picture in front of me. And she leans forward and she looks at it and she leans back. And I immediately was like, oh no, no, right? Like I've missed something, right? That anxiety that missed something. And she leans in and she looks at it and she's like, what do you guys notice about Lisa's wall? And I was like, what? Like I couldn't have missed anything, right? Like I was like, what are you talking about? And then she took a big red pen, if you've ever had those experiences back in school, right? Where they take
Yeah.
the big red pen and she circles my entire wall. And she's like, look how pretty it is. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like I was trying to be creative. I immediately went into justifying and doubling down on why my wall was the way it is, which is what provers do when they're called out. And that was my first taste of seeing how often I'd allowed perfectionism and proving to block me from connecting with myself and others. If I look a certain way, if I present a certain way, if everything is laid out perfectly, then nobody will see behind the scenes that I have no idea what I'm doing in my life. I feel wildly insecure most of the time, feel like an imposter most of the time. So it was that moment where I really discovered, okay, Lisa, we can show up in a different way. So there's nothing wrong with having, high levels of excellence, but I really had to take a look at how often I was using my appearance to block connection. We haven't met in person, but when I walk into a room, well, I'm small, but I take up a lot of space. I've got a big energy. And that energy can either pull people towards me or it can really repel them. So I had to learn like, yeah, it's fine to get dressed up and look a certain way and whatever you want, Lisa, but don't use that as a way of keeping people from you. Don't use that as a way of hiding who you really are. So I start now when I walk into a room, I make sure that I'm the first person to walk up to people. In my own personal life and practice, I started doing videos where I was like sweaty and fresh out of the gym, hair piled on top of my head, as a way of saying, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can get to look this way, you can get all dressed up and glammed and all that, but you're also just as good. You're just as acceptable. You're just as lovable if you're kind of a hot mess too. Like you get to have this entire range. But my whole life was around how can I make things look a certain way so that other people won't judge me? When the truth was all I was doing constantly was judging myself, right? A pig wearing lipstick is still a pig. Not saying that I was a pig, but this is what we do, right? Like we try and dress things up to make them look better so people won't see what's underneath. So that's what I mean around like coaching can really transform your life. I would have never discovered that on my own because I was too busy living in the pattern. I couldn't see that it was a pattern.
Mm. Until they pointed it out.
till they pointed it out. And then it was, like I said, it was super confronting. But that's the work that coaching does. Like if you're not wildly uncomfortable and feeling slightly dysregulated when your coach calls you out on things or points things out, then you're not working with a very good coach. Because my job isn't to be my client's best friends. My job is to be able to open doors that they have not been able to see yet. My
Mm,
job is to dismantle the beliefs that they're working from so that they can create the lives that they want. So if I play into their behaviors or say, yeah, you're right, you need everything to be perfect before you ship it out the door, I'm actually keeping them hostage, right? Like I'm supporting them in living in the life that they don't want.
mm.
And it's hard work. It's hard work.
Having to add that honesty to people, or that insight that they may not want to see, but is needed for that transformation or that
That's
change.
right. That's right. I mean, there were a lot of things that I got woken up to that I was like, wow, I really don't like, can we close the door on that? I'm not ready to see that yet. But once you know something about yourself, you can't unknow it. So then your choice is you sit in the awareness of it, which is horrible, right? To have awareness of something, but then not know how to change it or be unwilling to change it, it's an awful feeling. So the only way to create that transformation is by walking into the work and being in the discomfort. So I talk a lot about, coaching is about supporting my clients, expanding their capacity to hold discomfort.
Mm. What would you, for someone who's like, I feel like, or they're saying to themselves, they feel like they need a coach, and they're like, right, this is really going to help me get to where I want, open my blind spots a bit more, work into that. How do they know who the right coach is for them?
It's a really good question. I have a bit of a different buying pattern than I think the majority of people. I always know. Like I always know who my next coach and mentor is, right? Like when I first heard Jim on a podcast, I still remember standing in the gym and literally stopping dead in my tracks and being like, oh, that's going to be my next coach and mentor. And that's what he created. I always know who my next coach is as soon as I meet that person, whether I'm following them or online or whatnot, like the energy is there, right? Like I'll either resonate with them or not. And I don't have a lot of hesitation. For most people, what I would say is if they're looking for a coach, is follow them. It's follow them on Instagram, get on their newsletter list, like read into their body of work and see if you resonate with the things that they're saying, but also the things that they're saying are polarizing to you, right? So they're saying things that you're like, wait, what? What did she just say? Or what did he just say? Like, I don't see the world that way. So, like my current business coach that I'm working with, one of the reasons I hired her is she's really about systems and strategies and structure. And I'm really about feelings and inner work and, mindset and identity work. And I believe in order to run a really sustainable and solid business, like one that can outlast whatever is going on in the economy, you need to both work on who you are as the business owner, but you also need to work on the strategies within the business and make sure the foundations are laid. The reason that I hired her is because the stuff that I'm learning as a CEO is so hard for me. Everything that comes out of her mouth, I'm like, I kind of hate you right now because she's challenging the parts of me that are resisting or that believe that I'm not smart enough to do this or I can't learn it. So when I choose coaches that think differently than me because I want to see like what they see, how they see the world, and I want to be challenged by them. It doesn't mean I'm just going to suddenly subscribe to everything that they say, but I want to work with people that are going to challenge me and open me up to more, to the things that I don't know about me, right? So the goal for me right now is like, how can I really feel anchored in this identity of a next level CEO running a multi-million dollar company? That's going to take more than just my identity work from the inside. It does take structure within my business. But man, every time I sit in that room with her, I'm like, this is not sexy stuff that I'm having to do. So that's what I would say about choosing a coach is really find somebody that you resonate with. Like that energy is there. You don't want to be in a battle royale with this person, right? You want to resonate with their energy. Like, oh, I like the stuff they're putting out. Whatever your values are, but also, oh, wow, some of the things they say really challenge my own thoughts and ways of being right now. And then take the time that you need to really check in with if that is the right coach or hop on a call with them and have a conversation. Like you'll learn really quickly you will determine really quickly if somebody's going to be a good fit for you or not. And if you're slightly afraid to take that leap, that's probably the right coach. Like if you're excited, but also like, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? It's probably the right coach. The other thing I will say about coaching as well, and I think this is important, there are a lot of coaches out there. There are a lot of coaches, period, right now. And there are a lot of people that don't live in integrity with their work. I'm sure you see this as well, Johnny, where they say one thing forward facing and behind the scenes, there's something totally different going on. And that's why I say, like, watch people for an extended amount of time to see, like, are they congruent? When you're choosing a coach, you want to choose a coach that is living the life that that you want to be living,
Mm,
right? That is grounded in and congruent with what they're actually coaching. I'm not going to hire a coach to support me with my money if that coach is broke. You're not going to teach me money stuff if you can't even manage your own money stuff. So that is something that I'm always looking for as well, is the person I'm hiring, are they congruent? And that, because it's such, integrity is such a high value to me. So I always work with coaches that are in integrity with their work.
I'd agree with that. Or like the health coach that's not in shape, or doesn't eats takeaways all the time. Yeah, not
Right.
wanting
Is
that. Right?
preaching count your macros and then eating burgers and fries behind the scenes, right? Like they're not living they're not living what they're coaching on. So I take a lot of pride in the work that I do with my clients is the work that I do with myself every single day. It's not like I've transcended and I'm here and my clients are here. I'm shoulder to shoulder with my clients. I'm just a little bit further down the path. But everything that my clients have walked through or are walking through or are dealing with is stuff that has been in my life as well. And I've had to use the tools and the system that I use with my clients to move myself through it. So, I can't ask people to be in their feelings, to feel the hard stuff, to walk through the fire if I'm not willing to do it myself. If I'm, guzzling back a bottle of wine because I don't want to feel my feelings.
Mm.
So these are some of the important parts about hiring a coach, is really looking for that congruence. Somebody can have very flashy marketing. We've got a lot of really great salespeople that aren't really great coaches. That's my beef with the industry. There needs to be more integrity within coaching.
And I discovered a very good coach, but not very good marketing. So yeah,
I'm never going to be the best marketer, and I don't care to be the best marketer. You don't need to be the best marketer to have a successful coaching practice. So, I gave up that game a long time ago. You can either be an excellent coach or an excellent marketer. I don't think I can do both because both require such a high level of expertise. However, I can hire people to help me. But at the end of the day, most of my clients come through referrals because most high level coaches who are doing what I'm doing, we're not the ones online with the biggest followers, right? We're not the famous coaches. We're the ones doing the deep work, the intimate work behind the scenes with high level leaders.
it's awesome. What's the like for you? Like you say you do, I know you do a lot of one-on-one with people,
Yeah.
and you've had that yourself. Like the difference for you, for someone going through that versus like a group
Mm.
coaching, or is it a bit of both you think gives them an advantage?
So one-to-one coaching is like, it's so precise. It's so precise. It's you and me, and there's no place to hide. So in group coaching, you're not going to get that intimate one-to-one support where your coach knows you inside and out and you're only working on what's relevant to you. So, as you know, I work inside Jim's program and I love that program. I think it's so foundational for so many people to just like as a baseline of like, where are you? Where do you want to go? What are some of the fundamental things that we need to lay down first in order to move into a deeper one-to-one coaching? So a lot of my people who come to me, they're not newbies at self-development, right? They've read the books, they've taken the courses, they've been in the groups, they've done a lot of that deep work, and they're still struggling because they've never specifically gone into what are the things with them that are holding them back. So in a group, even in a group program, you're still only going to get the insight that your subconscious, your identity is going to allow you to see.
Mm.
Right? How many times have you read a self-help book and then like years later you're like, "Oh my God, I totally, like, why didn't I pick that up then?" Because you weren't able to. Your subconscious is like, "Nope, delete, control alt delete. We don't want to take that in yet." So that's the way that I see one-to-one coaching as so different. It's just a higher level because it is so precise into you.
Hmm. I was going to kind of ask another question, which I feel is very much in line with this, is that there's a lot of information, like you said, with the self-help industry. So many books, so many free videos, so many podcasts, low pay courses, whatever you get, group programs. And a lot of people don't actually have transformations.
No. I was just doing a podcast series on this because, the self-help industry thrives on creating awareness and create awareness, right? Like we get all this awareness, but awareness doesn't create transformation. Awareness creates more frustration. And for a lot of the clients that I work with, awareness is incredibly frustrating because then they're like, why can't I move past this? So we get stuck in awareness and believing that awareness is transformation. Awareness is nothing. It's just awareness. Like you can have a messy bedroom and you can be aware that your bedroom is messy, but it's not going to get clean unless you actually start picking up stuff and putting it away, right? Clearing out the room. So I think that's where a lot of the self-help stops, is like we create this awareness and then we don't know what to do with it. So when I'm working with clients, we go from awareness into acceptance. Now, acceptance, though, I gloss over this section, but it's actually the most important part, because you can't actually, once you have awareness, you can't get to acceptance without navigating the grief process. Do you want to talk about marketing grief? Nobody's buying that. But when we come to an awareness about ourselves, and I know you've done a lot of work on yourself, when you've had a big awareness about yourself, you've gone through like the denial, the bargaining, right? The whole cycle, the anger. How come I didn't know this? Why didn't I know this? Why I could have done better. Things could have been different, right? So we cycle through this whole grief process over and over and over again until we're willing to get to that place of, okay, I need to accept this. Like, so if we go back to my story, Lisa, you've been living your life as a perfectionist. What does that cost you? What have you made that mean about yourself? If you're messy, what does that mean? Like, it was a whole dismantling. It was literally like somebody saying to me, okay, I'm going to take your head, I'm going to shove it underwater, I'm going to tell you to breathe. And I'm like, I don't know how to breathe underwater, because I was so grounded in perfectionism. It infiltrated every part of my life. Like, imagine launching a website and a course when like every color needed to be right, every font needed to be right. Like, I was just obsessed about it. So we have to move through those stages of grief to reach this place of acceptance before we can even move into taking different action. Now, it's not really like a stair step, right? Like, we can be taking action while we're grieving. I've got a client who's, man, she's in a whole bunch of stuff right now, right? Leaving her marriage and all this stuff. And so we are taking action while she's grieving. And then she's, fighting the acceptance of what's happening and taking action and going back to grief. But we cannot skip over the grief part so that we can truly get to that place of acceptance around, this is what my life is going to have to look like when I put these parts of me down.
Mm.
And this is the consistent action that I'm now going to need to take. So it's kind of like what would not Johnny do? So if Johnny would always do X, Y, and Z in his life, and now you have this new awareness and you've kind of gone through this grief process, and you're like, okay, I've accepted that if I want, let's say, more money in the bank, I'm going to need to pay my bills on time. I'm going to need to like have some reverence for my money, right? Then you need to start taking those consistent actions all the time until you get to this place of embodiment. So this new identity, this new way of being. Yeah, self-help kind of stops us at awareness, talks to us nothing about the grieving process. They try to go from awareness and oftentimes into action. And this is why people get pulled back up into awareness without actually creating any transformation. Because without the grief, you cannot shift your identity.
It's kind of what comes up for me there is I can remember this coming up in Jin's program a few times. People saying, I keep self-sabotaging, I can't stop. Is that a case you feel of not allowing that grief?
Yeah, because they haven't accepted like this part of you, for whatever reason it's wanting to sabotage you. Let's look at what this part of you gives you. And if it wasn't there anymore, what would your life look like? We don't do anything unless there's a benefit. And these behaviors are there, I talk about them like they're little children. They show up to protect us. They want to protect us. They want to make sure that we're always loved, that we're always safe, and that we always feel like we belong. And if that is ever threatened, these behaviors will come out. So when people are getting into sabotaging behaviors, it's because there is a part of their unconscious identity that believes that that is a threat to who they are. So until you can bring that to the surface and really grieve, like, oh my God, this part of me really wants to protect me because I genuinely believe that if I do this thing, I'm not going to feel safe. So, for instance, I had a client call this week and she was talking about how she's built an incredible business, bricks and mortar, and she wants to move online. And every time she goes to post or do anything online, she's like terrified. So we talked it through a little bit. And what ultimately ended up coming up is the part of her that's sabotaging her is this little part. When she was little, her parents moved her around a lot and she was living in a lot of unsafe environments. Like it was unsafe to be seen. There were, you know, bullets flying in the background, like legit not safe for her. So for her, anytime she went to go post online, it brought up this feeling of I'm not going to be safe. Now, that little part of her doesn't realize she's a grown adult, right? As far as I know, nobody's been killed from posting a meme on Instagram, right? But to her unconscious identity, to that little part of her, it didn't matter. It was just unsafe. So we went through this process of like, how can we allow that little girl inside of you to feel safe? How can we grieve her experience, right? So she had this whole experience growing up and nobody ever talked to her about how she was feeling. So as adults, we get to talk to those parts of us that we look at as sabotaging us, but they're not sabotaging us. They're actually trying to do the opposite. They are trying to love us so hard that they don't want us to get hurt. Makes sense? So in her grieving that and really recognizing, oh my God, this is where it's coming from, she was able to get to a new level of acceptance. So now when she posts online and she feels that like pit in her stomach, like I'm not going to feel like this doesn't feel safe for me, she can literally say, and this is coming from my 5-year-old self. And we're actually okay. I've got you. I love you. I've got you. We're going to take the new action. And every single time she posts, she's teaching her body, she's teaching her nervous system, she's teaching that like little girl inside of her that she's safe and everything's fine.
Mm.
And 6 months from now, she'll be like, why did I even make posting online a thing? But this is what I mean about that grief process, right? Until we can meet those parts of ourselves and actually understand that, oh, you were never trying to hurt me. You were trying to help me. And here I've been like, angry at myself because why can't I just do the thing instead of meeting ourselves with compassion? Because to me, that's what the grief process is about, is can we hold that discomfort and meet ourselves with compassion?
So it sounds like still sort of taking action. The example you use, you can't there. It's still about taking action. It's not going like, oh, it's okay not to do anything. You're upset, but it's like it's safe. We're going to take action, but I love you. Mm,
Correct. It's not, like I said, it's not a step 1, step 2, step 3, like multiple things are going on at the same time, but we have to be aware of what the pattern is, what kind of feelings it's bringing up for us. Grief is all about letting go.
mm.
What grief is, right? How do we let go? How do we let go of that part of our identity so we can take different action and move on? And I think what a lot of people get stuck in as well is not just the awareness, but, oh, I have to heal this before I can take action. And often in the taking of the action, right, we're doing two things at the same time. We're moving into that place of acceptance, grieving, and taking action. Right? Like humans want things to be like step, 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 and it's not, it's messy. So, there are many times where I am holding multiple energies, like expansive energy, things happening in my business that are so expansive. And then at the same time, I'm holding a lot of grief because there's stuff going on with my kids or my partner or whatever, right? We can hold multiple things at a time and move forward.
I like, yeah, like you said, it's not just about waiting till you're healed. Totally resonate with that. And just thinking what comes to mind. A lot of people say that they're healing from a like nasty relationship or dating situation, and they're saying I need to heal, and it's years, and some never date again. Sometimes.
It can be depending on where you work from. So, I went through some major shifts in my relationship in 2023 and it was like I didn't want to close down my heart and I didn't want to get stuck in my pain. And
Mm,
I think that that's when people say I'm healing, what they're really doing is attaching to their pain. And their pain gives them a benefit because as long as they're attached to their pain, they don't have to put themselves back out into the world. They don't have to risk being hurt again. So they stay healing as a way to protect themselves, but they're not actually healing because they're still living in the open wound.
and again, it sounds like that's the beauty of a coach, to kind of really help you see your own pattern for you. Whilst a friend might be just, say something different, pat you on the back.
Well, our friends often are working from, being pleasers. They don't want us to be hurt. They want us to feel better, right? I call it passing the Kleenex, right? Like, how can I just fix you so you can feel better? Whereas a coach's job, my job isn't to make you feel better. My job is to empower you so you know how to make yourself feel better,
Mm.
right? Like, the whole role of coaching is to show you how much power you have in yourself. It's not to do the work for you.
I a couple of like observations from like you coaching, even myself, is when you would point out to me or someone else and saying, "Sounds like you're pretty committed to that behavior." I'm like, "Oh." You know what I mean? Yeah.
Because oftentimes, like, we say we want one thing,
Mm,
but then we keep doing this thing. Well, that shows me what you're committed to.
mm,
You can't have the other if you're going to be committed to this. So you can't be healed if you're committed to healing, right? You can't be well if you're committed to being sick. So there's really powerful choices that people get to make. I'm not going to say it's easy because it's not. What happened in my life in 2023 was probably the most painful thing I've ever gone through. And I really had to recognize that I was really getting attached to my pain. Like, I literally, so I, I walked the Camino, and I picked up a rock along the way to represent like what had happened, right? My pain. And I was determined, Johnny, that when I got to marker zero, I was going to put down my pain. I laugh thinking about it, right? I was going to get to marker zero. I was going to put down my pain. I was going to celebrate like Rocky, and then I would be done and I would move on. I got to marker zero, and there was no way I was putting down that rock. I carried that rock from Spain, then I took it over to Mallorca, which is still in Spain. Then I took it to Morocco. Then I carried it back to Spain. And I remember sitting on the beach. I did a podcast episode about this. I remember sitting on the beach in San Sebastian. And I'm like, Lisa, you leave tomorrow. And this rock, like, what are you going to do with it? And when I say I was attached to that rock, like, if I couldn't find it in my like fanny pack or whatever the kids call it these days, crossbody shoulder bag. If I couldn't find that rock, I would almost have a panic because of what I'd made the rock represent. So I sat on that beach and I said, "You're going to go home tomorrow. Do you really want to bring this rock back to North America with you? Like, are you legit going to carry this pain home?" And I knew what it meant if I did. I knew if I brought it home with me, I would still carry it with me. And I sat there until I was ready to throw it away. But I probably cried on that beach for a good 3, 4 hours grieving it because I knew that in order to have the life that I wanted, I couldn't bring my pain with me. But I was also terrified of letting go of that pain because I knew once I let that pain go, I couldn't swim back out into the water and grab the rock again. I couldn't just walk off the beach and then go back into the pain again. I had to make a decision that if I got rid of that rock, if I released that pain, that I had to be committed to what I wanted moving forward, which meant when the feelings or the thoughts came up or the memories, I had to say, like, Lisa, we're not doing this anymore. Like, let it go. Stop ripping open the wound. And that is so hard for people to do because they want to go back into their pain. But you cannot be committed to your pain and the life that you want for yourself. You can't be committed to the behaviors you're running from now and create different. So the work really started after the rock went in the ocean. And every single day I had to choose to not open the door and go back into the thoughts and the feelings. And I had to be relentless about this. So now here I am, it's 2026, probably the, couple hardest years of my life. But rarely, rarely does that pain come up for me. It's not that it didn't happen. It's not that I just, made it okay. I didn't make it okay. It will never be okay what happened in my life, but I'm not attached to it. It's in the past and my future is in front of me. And I can't have the future I want if I drag it with me. That's the work. So when people stay in healing, they're literally so attached to their pain because the commitment to actually going after what they want. So say they lose love, right? A bad breakup, it means they have to open their heart again and be vulnerable, and they might get hurt again. So in our pursuit of like not feeling pain, we commit to a life of pain,
funny.
right? Like, that's the irony. So people are trying so hard to like, yeah, anyways, I'll leave it there.
So it's not what you're saying, it's not about not feeling feelings, not like and all that, but it's like not living there for the
You can't stay in grief forever or you will drown in grief. So I'm all about feeling your feelings and allowing them to move through you. Like, I was not going to fast track the pain that I was feeling. I was not going to fast track the life experience that I was given. Like, there was no way to go around it faster. I had to feel my way through it. And I also had to get to the point where I realized, like, okay, Lisa, What is creating your pain now? Is it what happened, or is it your thoughts every single day and your attachment to what happened? And it came down to like, I'm playing a role here. And at what point do you start to let this go? So again, it's not letting go, isn't saying what happened was okay. It's just saying it's not going to run my life anymore. So we have to feel our feelings. We need support going through it. Like I had lots of support going through this. It was messy, even with all of my coaching tools. Most days I had to put my coaching tools in the toolbox and leave them there and just allow myself to be a messy human. Most of us need support when we're going through things to find our way out the other side, but we haven't been taught these tools, right? So I'm so grateful that I have these tools around choice and letting go and grief, and so many people don't have them, and that's why they get trapped in their, pain and suffering and healing and all that kind of stuff, and never really reclaim their life.
Powerful insights there, and it always been your choice. That's
Yeah, life is hard and things are going to happen to us. We can't avoid that. But we have a choice about how we move through things. And, I made the decision. I was very intentional about, okay, Lisa, like you're gonna work, you're gonna enjoy your work, but you're not gonna drown yourself in your work. Do you know what I mean? That's a coping strategy when we're like, I'm just gonna get busy. I'm just gonna be a workaholic so I don't have to feel my pain. I was very adamant I wasn't gonna drink my way through it or self-medicate. I don't drink. That I was gonna allow myself to feel my way to the other side of it. But most people will go into coping mechanisms. And then that's what gets them trapped in those feelings because they don't actually process the things that have happened in their life. And this is why, when we're working through this transformational process of creating awareness, this is why the grief has to be in the process because you don't realize how much you've been carrying that you didn't need to carry in the way that you've been carrying it.
absolutely. And the grief is a big, well, it's after awareness. I was going to say it's a big awareness piece, but it comes after the awareness. Yeah, and the power of having a coach to help you spot these things right that you've
Yeah,
been sharing today. Lisa,
100%. Yes.
I was going to say, like,
Mm.
you've got obviously a huge range of experience in helping people going through all sort of different experiences and transformations. We'd love to know where the listener can find more from you. I know you've got some resources available, which is exciting. And is there maybe a final word you'd like to leave us with today?
Oh my goodness, we talked about so much. So thanks for this conversation. I feel like I took a trip down memory lane. It's really powerful to reflect, and I really challenge you and reflect on your journey. I think so often we're, especially those of us who are committed to growth, we're always looking at what's in front of us, which is great. And there is so much power in just looking over our shoulders every now and then and really acknowledging how far we've come. So we talked a lot about grief, right? But there's also a lot of celebration and like, wow, look at us now. Look at all the things. Look at all the rooms we've cleaned out. Look at how different we're showing up in the world. So, grief and gratitude, they can go hand in hand. Where can people find me? My podcast. So I have a podcast like yours. It's called Congruence. It's found on all the major platforms. I hang out typically on Instagram, and we've just recently launched what's called the Success Paradox quiz. And I was saying to you before we went live, this is one of the things that I'm so excited about. This is a huge body of my work, and it really is about the different archetypes that drive the type of men and women that I work with and how they are the behaviors that actually created the success for them, whether it's being the machine or being the prover or being the polisher or being the giver, right? So we all have these behaviors. But in this quiz, you're going to determine which are your top two archetypes driving you. And then that leads into a private podcast where, God, these are about an hour-long episodes where I go so deep into each archetype, where they originated from, and what you can start to do to shift them. The episodes are meant to not only bring awareness, a little bit punch you in the gut and drop you into grief. Because when you see these patterns and where they came from, and you start to have those aha moments, you will be like, oh my God, my poor little child that didn't realize I didn't need to do that to feel loved by my parents. But you adopted that coping strategy, and it's literally what's propelled you forward in life. But now it's hurting you, not helping you, right? Perfectionism is great until you can't get anything out the door because it's never good enough and nobody can help you because they'll never do it as good as you will. Or the machine who is so wrapped up in their identity being about productivity, they don't even know how to slow down and chill out. Well, how can you have a fulfilling life if if you think rest is being lazy, if you don't know how to connect with play and creativity,
Mm.
right? Or the prover, this is my personal favorite because it's one of my main archetypes. The prover is the one who's always, we've always got the bar. And then as soon as we get close to the bar or we reach the bar, we raise the bar. And it's never good enough. Nothing is ever good enough. So you're constantly chasing achievement. So, what these archetypes are meant to do is teach you what it looks like to work with them from a congruent place. So, I still have the prover in me, but now I'm not trying to chase my worthiness. I'm not trying to chase anything. I'm intentionally choosing things in my life that light me up, that excite me. I'm always going to have goals. I mean, we've known each other a while, right? Like, I love living an extraordinary life. I love having goals. But now it's not about if I do these things, people will see how awesome I am and then I'll feel awesome. Now it's about if I choose these things, it's because I want to do this for me and I get to feel awesome about these things. So it's about learning how to work with your archetype. And the way I talk about it is it's the difference between being a high achiever, right? We all get pats on the back for being a high achiever, but I want people to work from high performance. I want them to use these archetypes for their benefit and not at their detriment, right? So be a machine, get stuff done, but have boundaries. Close your laptop, get outside, go be in nature, go hang out with your family, take unplugged vacations, right? Like, so you can have these archetypes, but when you learn to work with them instead of them driving you, it's a completely different ballgame. And that's where you will find where success really lives. That's where you'll find fulfillment, joy, ease, and a life worth living. Because what's the point in building success if you're constantly it always feels at arm's reach from you. This is what so many people that come to me, they've built the life, they've got the family, the money's in the bank, like on the outside everything looks great. And they're like, where is the feeling that I was sold I would get if I ticked the boxes? They've ticked all the boxes and they don't feel that way because they never actually looked at the operating system that got them to where they are and what now needs to be refined so that they can live their lives not from the wounded version of themselves, but from who they really are. So you can find that. Like I said, it's like a deep body of work. I could probably sell it as a course, but I want it to be out in the world for free because I think everybody should have access to this information. And like I said, I don't just give people awareness. There's actually tools in there about strategies that they can start using to shift the patterns. So you can find that at lisacarpenter.ca/quiz. And I hope you go through, Johnny. I would love to hear what your archetypes are.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump into that one. So yeah, you can grab the link for that awesome quiz and to find out more about Lisa's work and what she's doing, linked in the show notes below to get in touch. And yeah, I just want to say thank you, Lisa, for coming on today and everything you shared.
Well, thank you for being such a gracious host and asking such thoughtful questions. I can tell you're good at what you do, which I love. It was cool to be in your world. So thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our episode for today. And remember to lead with your heart and not with fear.